All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back from a long weekend. We will get this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. And we will start with public comment. I don't see any. So we will move forward to our action items, and we'll begin with our purchasing agenda today. So we have a very robust purchasing agenda. I asked my colleagues on the committee to review that thoroughly over the weekend, and we're going to touch on a couple high points on the agenda, but not walk through item by item. What you will see on the purchasing agenda item, or purchasing agenda, is the word renewal often. So we are at that time of the year when the district begins to renew and prepare for the next academic year. So a lot of our licensing, our curriculum, that is what comprises most of the purchasing agenda and a few other items. With that, I will hand it over to you, Ms. Cribbs.
Okay, so we will get right to it here. And as Ms. Shockey alluded to, this first page are all renewal items. Again, the special ed resources on the number one through a bunch of software renewals to renewal of our cellular hotspot services for families. This next page leads us into West Michigan Janitorial is a permission to modify the blanket order for this year. We've had additional costs come through and additional needs at buildings, so we've added additional staffing at those buildings using West Michigan Janitorial, so that's an adjustment to the current year blanket order. Number 12 is actually a new item for our curriculum for INVO's Alta, a Spanish for Spanish speakers, to be used at Burton Middle and Southwest Middle High School. 13 is another contract renewal with Grow Eyes Sally Triant. Number 14 is a 6-year license for Into Math Core Curriculum, and this is something new for next year. It's gone through, I believe, academic achievement, as well as we've had our math.
Instructional Council?
It
No.
wasn't instructional council,
Okay.
but I'm going to say their
Advisory.
content group.
Advisory. Thank you.
Advisory, right? Oh, okay.
Great,
See,
thank
that's
you.
why I have my friends
Yes.
here.
Very helpful.
And Go Math is extending that for 1 year as item number 15. Number 16 is a renewal of a Discovery Ed, our science curriculum, again for a 1-year renewal on that one. The next item is number 17. So I'm going to pause here because I'm thinking this is going to be the one where we have more questions on. And if I might, I'm going to ask Dr. Lovelady Mitchell and Mr. Jonathan Harper to come forward to help answer questions that we have.
Great.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Shockey and trustees. What I'm going to share is the learning and teaching portion and ask Mr. Harper to do similar. And I think there are some additional questions related to contract and language. And so we will likely ask CFO Lusk to come up and or say, we'll get that information for the board meeting. So I'm going to first just start with ideal state, of course, is every day, every classroom, every school having a certified teacher. Folks that are our employees in the building daily that are certified, giving access to grade level standards and curriculum and experiences. That is our ideal state. And without that, it is hard to reach our end goals and the outcomes that we desire for all kids. And so this is our short-term strategy, Elevate K-12, and we do need a long-term strategy in terms of making sure all of our positions are filled by certified teachers. One of the questions that I think that you all have is related to some of the outcomes that we have seen related to Elevate K-12, and in our February academic achievement meeting, we did cover some of that, and we'll be prepared later this school year to come back at the end of the school year to share second semester. So let me ask Mr. Harper just to share a couple of the tiles related to first semester data related to Elevate K-12 courses, some of the outcomes, and then the non-Elevate K-12.
Yep. Ms. Cribbs, may I have the Vivi? Thank you.
So if we go back to the FEB academic achievement tile or marker 49 minute, you'll hear the conversation about Elevate K-12, and then you'll hear and see around tile 29, I believe it is, 2 different tiles, again, that give you some of the outcomes for Elevate K-12 and then the non-Elevate K-12 courses. Mr. Harper?
Yep. So I'm going to first show what we presented for our first semester report. So this was the grade distribution for first semester that we presented in February. So you notice for Elevate K-12, this is Elevate K-12 secondary classes only, so 6 through 12. At the end of first semester, this was our essentially our distribution. So we had 82.3% of scholars earning credit for courses taken that had been instructed by Elevate K-12 instructors. Approximately 17.7% did not receive credit. And then this slide actually shows the distribution of all classes versus Elevate K-12. And so that was at the end of first semester. So that was what Dr. Lovelady Mitchell originally referenced, and this is what was presented in February. Now, the next, this is data, let's see here, view slideshow. This is our current data as of third marking period. And so you can see this is all 6th through 12th grade classes, third marking period only. Obviously, fourth marking period is not finished yet, but the distribution was somewhat similar, 84.42% passing or credit, and 11.13% non-credit. Now, again, that's all classes. This is the distribution for Elevate K-12 only classes 6 through 12 was 78.57%. Earning credit and 13.69 not earning credit for third marking period exclusively. So that is our current grade distribution.
The other element that I would lift up is it has been bumpy, but gotten better with time and with some intentional strategies like office hours and different conversations. It has not been seamless. I don't think anything with a human dynamic is, but it has gotten better over time. That's the first chunk in terms of the learning and teaching aspects. I think there are additional questions, so we'll pause. And like I said, we're answering the learning and teaching outcomes. The contract and other things, we will defer. It is important to us that this short-term strategy of Elevate K-12 goes forward because in order to reach the achievement outcomes, our end goals, and giving children access to certified teachers, this is the short-term strategy. It is not our ideal strategy. It is not our plan A. Plan A, again, is our own GRPS, certified teachers in every position. And until we get there, this is our short-term strategy. So what questions might you have for learning and teaching? And if there are other elements, we will defer to folks who can come to the table and or to the larger meeting.
Great. Colleagues?
I just wanted to ask what other ideas have come to the table, and what just impossibilities are there out there to not have to use virtual teachers?
Yeah, I think that is a layered question. It is inclusive of us trying to collaborate with different partners to bring certified people into the system through the protocols that are authorized, whether that's working with post-secondary institutions or other partners. There are other virtual platforms that offer some things, but not this live dynamic partnership like Elevate K-12. Would you like to add? I don't want us to, Mr. Harper would not make up anything, but I always feel like I need to say, I do not want us to make up anything. And if we do not know, or if there's not more to say, it's okay to say that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with, as far as options go, when we look at the interaction of a live in-person certified teacher versus asynchronous, non-guided instruction, I think is the difference, right? So there are, for instance, we do have, still have Edgenuity or E2020 as it would be, but again, those are essentially asynchronous courses that are worked through at a scholar's pace. While there is a place for that, I think in our system, when we talk about the actual interaction and guidance from a teacher, whether it be in person or virtual, this is the best option that we found, absent the hiring of in-person staff.
And not trying to be a commercial for Elevate K-12, but the coach in the classroom and the partnership between the coach in the classroom and the certified teacher that's being streamed in, when done well, has been very promising. And so this is why we lean towards Elevate K-12 versus some of the other variables that you just heard mentioned.
So if it's not Elevate K-12, it would be another virtual,
It would be,
yeah.
yes.
I mean,
And,
besides us hiring and retaining teachers,
well,
this would be
but,
still.
so here's the other thing that I would say about that. It is not like we have a row of people that we can call in. We don't have a bench to call in. And as soon as we see a viable player that we could call in and then get hired, our language is set up so that we do that. Meaning Elevate K-12 could be in existence today. We see that there is someone that's viable that could take that position. And so there's space for us to do that. And then the teacher, certified teacher, does replace Elevate K-12 upon becoming a viable option. And so the difference is it's a virtual computer program that is not as dynamic as the two people that's set up in this Elevate K-12 way. Does that answer your question, Trustee Wade? Okay.
Yep.
Dr. Lovelady, I missed you when Ms. Wade asked her question. You made the statement, something about protocols that are authorized, something about, I don't know, can you tell me more about what protocols may be considered that aren't authorized?
Yeah. So what I will do, I will say what I know, and then I will ask CFO Lusk if she wants to chime in now, if she feels prepared to do that. Otherwise, we'll defer the question. So what I mean is there are some innovations that are allowable that do not create more problems or have unintended consequences. And because we have different partnerships and things like that, anything that is not, so we always have to be mindful and not step in something or engage in something that brings about unintended consequences. And I don't feel like I'm the best person to talk about labor relations or those other partnerships, so I will not. I just want to make sure at the end of the day, related to learning and teaching, that we have every classroom, every school, every day, a certified classroom teacher. That's the only way that we're going to reach the end goals and the outcomes that we've been charged with. And Elevate K-12 is our short-term strategy for that.
Okay, well, I think I definitely would like to hear more about that. And like you said, maybe you're not the person for it. But the reason I guess I definitely want to hear more is because I guess to be direct, if we want things to be different, we have to be courageous enough to challenge some of those, I guess, established protocols. And without maybe knowing more about that, I'm not going to say which ones we should or shouldn't challenge, but I most certainly would like to hear more. I'm sure others would like to hear more about what those options might be. I guess also maybe just more of a as we move forward. The grade distribution is definitely decent information, but I'm not certain that grade distribution speaks to learning. So I think that when we sort of do a comparative analysis of what's going on with Elevate versus non-Elevate classrooms, we may maybe want to look at, I don't know, maybe some app outcomes. I don't know, but I guess I'm not confident that the grade distribution will sway folks to see Elevate as effective when it talks about teaching and learning. Certainly effective maybe from a credit accumulation, but credit accumulation doesn't necessarily equate to scholars being prepared.
Yeah, that's so layered. Trustee Ross, I understand what you're saying. I just think that's so layered. It's so layered. And so I think that we have people tracking the questions. And so I'll also follow up to make sure we are explicit on the questions that the panel wants answered and that we can bring those back.
Yeah. And then I guess my last comment, I definitely get that ideally we want Elevate K-12 to be short-term strategy, but maybe connected to that challenge and authorized protocols. A year ago or so, we wanted it as a short-term strategy. Might we be here next year saying it's a short-term strategy?
Yeah.
Might we be here again saying it's a short-term strategy? So at some point, we're really just going to have to figure something else out. And I guess, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
that point is, I'm not going to say now, but
Yeah, I think what you're asking for is a short-term and a long-term strategy related to how we fill our vacancies, and we would be in agreement. And the other thing that I think about is what are viable options related to filling those vacancies, and then, like you said, being explicit about the protocols. I'm in agreement with all of that.
Okay. Well, what I know, what we know, I guess, as a board, are a couple of things about our current state. One, we know we're in negotiations. And so this is the time in which we are setting the conditions to be better at ensuring that we have what our end goal is, which is certified teachers in the classroom. What we know is that we reimagined the district and that we are restructuring so that we can reduce the number of classrooms, yet retain the number of staff we have to better impact this. So we know that we are making move towards making the right conditions so that we can decrease the amount of Elevate K-12 support we have. But I am with you in that this is the solution to ensure that our scholars are being served, and that is what we are called to here. So I guess I'll end by saying it is not typical that the practice of finance is to discern the depth that we are today of this particular item. However, we know for a couple of reasons. One, graduations were last week, and May is just a disruptive committee month. And then also, two, this has been important to our community at large, and so that's why we asked for this discussion today.
Yeah. I think our time is coming to an end, basically, right? So I feel like I need to just say again, from the learning and teaching perspective, our ideal state is to have certified teachers that are employees of GRPS. And in addition, in order for us to meet our ends goals and the achievement data that we know our kids, staff, and community deserve, we know that certified humans are what is needed. And absent of that, we do need a short-term strategy, and we do need something sooner versus later in order to tee up the next school year. And would I choose to spend money this way in an ideal situation? No, I would not. But given the options that we have been offered or that are out there as viable, it is the best one at this point. Is it perfect? It is not. But every kid in every classroom in every school does deserve a certified classroom teacher. And so that's why we're here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, back to purchasing.
have a permission to increase our blanket for community health workers through Corewell Health. This is it, they're providing support for vacancies. The reason we're coming back this late with such a large change is we've had delayed billing from Corewell, so it was trying to track down significantly delayed billing from Corewell Health to know what the anticipated amount is through the end of the year. The item number 2 is a couple weeks ago, as you know, we had the water main break at campus, so we had to call in somebody to help clean up for that. Another one related to our facilities master plan is number 3. We're doing the title searches on all of our properties.
I'm so sorry.
No, sorry, I forgot to move it back. And then we're down into a number of renewals again. So I don't think there's a whole lot to highlight there.
Great.
On our next page here, we're moving back into a number of curriculum type items. Several of these that you see are funded with Michigan Kids Back on Track grant. That is a new grant for this fiscal year that does extend into next year, and most of these items were funded out of our ESSER 3 funding, so this allows us one more year for these programs. And it continues on to the next page. Item number 9, we do have social studies textbooks there with ESSER 3 funding. So as we try to close out ESSER 3, looking at items that we can still utilize for that funding. And grade 7, it's my understanding that was kind of a gap year in the resources that we have, so wanted to supplement some additional resources for grade 7. Also down items 10 through 12, this is an item we wanted to do some additional materials for our STEM and science resources. So looking at ESSER 3 funding to get additional resources in for our buildings.
Is that all buildings?
I believe it's primarily secondary buildings, so middle and high schools. For the STEM materials, is that all buildings?
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, so the STEM materials actually is really system-wide. There was a survey done. Jessica Vander Ark, our supervisor of science, has been working closely with our building leaders and teacher leaders across the district, and so it's a rather extensive list of materials. But we're talking about some of the larger items on there, renewing like the chemical vent hoods for our chemistry labs, and putting in goggle cabinets and new things that way across really science safety materials, and then of course also many different items that were purchased to support STEM across the district. So depending on the individual building need, there are certain items that would go to certain buildings and maybe not others, and then there's certain items that are system-wide, but it's a very comprehensive list, and there was a number of building leaders and teachers that were involved in developing that list as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then down to also looking at ESSER 3 funding, and items 13 through 16 are to develop our esports rooms. So you'll do see the number of buildings there that are looking to have esports rooms added. Number 17 is a unique opportunity, again, that we're using our ESSER 3 funding for. We have, I believe it's 13 scholars that are attending Spelman College for a summer program. Down through there again, we've got some additional updates to the music production lab at Ottawa Hills. Under support materials, again, you'll see Corewell Health there as well. So the delayed billing is hitting us there as well, so looking to increase that. And then the last few down there are upgrades or renewals for our MIS department. Under building and sites, the general building and sites, we have resurfacing of the Ottawa Hills and Union High School tennis courts. This is going to be kind of a joint funding of this project. We are looking to get funding from the United States Tennis Association to help with the actual resurfacing of the courts. There'll also be some of it out of our general building and sites fund to fund that, because there needs to be some site work done to make sure, especially at the Ottawa Hills location, that we do the site work to maintain. Once that gets resurfaced, you don't want it to be the drainage to make a problem type thing. And down below in the bond projects, we are looking to get started with the Houseman Field and Briggsfield project for architectural engineering services, Riverside Montessori as well, and civil engineering services for the parking lots at several schools.
All right, any further discussion on the purchasing agenda? If not, may I please have a motion to move this forward to the board?
I do have.
You have another, okay, yeah, go ahead, Ms. Wade.
Because we didn't have academic achievement committee, so some of this stuff didn't come through the academic achievement committee, because we haven't had a meeting in maybe, our last meeting was canceled for sure. So I did want to ask some questions about some of the renewals and just how any feedback was taken, or if from teachers, or how does that process work? Does it go through a committee, before they say, yes, we want to use this again? Did that happen with some of the things that we use, such as IXL, for instance? Were these vetted? Did we get feedback from our
I was going to
staff?
say, I'm going to look to my
Yeah,
curriculum.
I know you don't know.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lovelady Mitchell.
Thank you.
And then, are we just getting data on how effective they are?
I'll sit here so you can have that mic. Okay. So we didn't have, this is May, we didn't have an academic achievement meeting in May.
Right.
And it was not because our staff canceled. I think board canceled, right? And I think what we would need to do is go item by item, because it varies. We have advisories. And so majority of the things are vetted by advisory, or you get input from the advisory. And in other instances, there are groups that our consultants work with, and they get advice or insight from them. In principle, it varies. And I think that's where some of the conversations about effectiveness comes into play. There's also a survey that our ed techs have generated that helps us with some of that, so it varies. And so we need to go through it probably line by line. Or if, go ahead.
We don't need to.
Well-
I was just wondering, not getting in specifics, but making sure, and for the record, our process is being, had for bringing these, renewing them. Okay, IXL is going up for renewal. Did a group come together? Did we ask teachers how, they feel about these specific tools?
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is that process is getting more robust. What I would love to do is I can go line by line with our team and make sure, since you all are thinking about moving this to the larger board meeting, which I don't know when it is, but what I could do is try to get a report for each line item related to teachers, principals, advisory, or whatnot, and share that way. And okay, and then also know that the process is growing more robust in terms of the insights that we do get. Are there comments back here, or facial expressions relatedly? I'm sorry? Yeah.
I appreciate it.
They're confirming.
I thought you meant here and now. I was like,
Oh, no, we're not, because I know there's a scroll, there's a long list.
there is.
It'll be a written report that we send before the board meeting, the next general board meeting.
Appreciate it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, may I please have a motion to move this purchasing agenda forward?
So move.
Well, I will support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I oppose.
Okay, majority moves it forward, so we will move on to our next agenda item, which is our blanket purchase orders. And will you begin with a refresher on what is a blanket order?
That's what I was gonna say.
Thank
That's
you.
where I was gonna start. So a blanket purchase order is we bring forth, these are the vendors that we will be planning to use for the 24-25 year for a variety of services. Typically, these are things that we're going to be doing monthly or periodically throughout the year, and rather than to bring back individual purchases throughout the year, we just ask upfront for our expected spending for the entire year of what this looks like. So as you just saw in our purchasing agenda that we just went through, that it does get updated if spend changes higher than these amounts. Typically, if they come in lower, obviously you're not going to see them at this point. So a variety of services, some of it like custodial supplies, again, depending on what it is, it's a variety of custodial services as well. So it's a long list. I'm just going to kind of scroll through it. If you've got a question about an individual line, please stop me.
And our threshold to bring a purchase to the board is 2,500, is that correct?
It's
No,
now
that's- I'm wrong about that.
29,000.
What's the threshold to
The
bring a
threshold.
purchasing item? All right, $29,842. So part of the reason for why we have blanket orders is so that when we have repetitive invoices that exceed that threshold for these companies on a monthly or more frequent basis, we're not burdening the purchasing agenda with those items on a recurring basis. The 2,500 was donations. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Got my thresholds mixed up.
And as you notice, there's a number of these that are lower than that threshold as well, but bringing forth all the blanket purchase orders.
All right, colleagues, as you've reviewed this in advance, do you have any specific questions about any of the purchases?
And you'll see our total amount is pretty similar to what we've got for this year.
Okay, not hearing any discussion, may I please have a motion to move the blanket purchase orders forward to the board?
So move.
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. We'll move forward to our budget amendment 2.
So I'm going to start with our general operating fund. As you'll see here, this combines all three components of our general fund. So it contains general operating grants and athletics. Overall, there's an increase in a projection for a revenue increase. Overall, a decrease in expenses. But I'm going to go to the memo that provides more detail and spend the time talking through this one. It's easier to see the different changes. One thing that we try to do with our budget amendment, the second budget amendment, is to adjust our expected, our budgets to our expected fiscal year 2024 spending. Especially in the grants, we also have some carryover adjustments in there as well. So highlighting investment income is trending still strong with the higher interest rates. Foundation allowance and membership from the state, so state aid. Line item number, or B, is property tax revenue that combines with lines L and M for the foundation allowance. And you'll see all three of those numbers are increased. Part of that is actually, though, our FTE numbers dropped on our May state aid. So we're down 42 FTE, student FTE pupil count. But as I build my revenue projections, I do put in their allowances for adjustments for Section 25, which is the when a scholar leaves GRPS for another district between the count days, there's a state aid adjustment. There's also an adjustment in there for section 51C and the calculation of what that is. So 51C, the revenue that we get has a 1-year time lag on there, so try to project out what that adjustment's gonna be in the following year. And I also put in an adjustment in there for less than 75% attendance days. So throughout the years, occasionally we have attendance less than 75%. Typically due to weather-related days, so some of those days where we may stay open, but the weather is really bad out there, and families do not come to school, we do take a state aid deduction. So this budget amendment, I'm reducing out those adjustments, so that's why even though we're down FTE, we've got a revenue increase. The large one there on line O is Section 147F was a MIPSR's new categorical revenue, so there's clarification in the allocation and what GRPS will receive, so that's the downward projection revenue there. One item I do want to highlight under grants is line item R, the Great Start Readiness Program. That is an actual decrease in our allocation that we just received in the last few weeks. So part of what you'll see on the expense side is our GSRP grant is not enough to cover all of our expense for our teachers, our supplies, et cetera, in there. So we are moving some of those expenses back into base funding.
Is that because of FTEs?
It's slots filled, I believe.
Slots
yeah.
filled,
So
okay.
Preschool's a little bit
Yeah,
different
yeah,
than
makes sense.
FTE, so
Mhm.
it's based on slots. The large increase on line item U is 31AA, and that's also a prior year carryover plus a new allocation for this year on the expense that we're planning on. And then at the bottom, a lot of the federal sources, those are just adjustments for current year allocations and projected spending for this year. On the expense side, you'll see a large decrease in salary and benefits in there. As we did Amendment 1, we were still projecting to fill a number of positions with GRPS employees, as you'll see, but line AV, we've increased the use of substitutes and instructional services we've not been able to fill those positions. To highlight line AX, materials and supplies, including classroom furniture. If you remember, back in the fall, we were planning on using ESSER 3 to replace classroom and teacher furniture throughout the throughout the district. We were in a training, discovered that any asset purchased with federal funds greater than $100 would have to be asset tracked. So knowing that to track individual desks and chairs throughout the district, because they're all over $100, that was going to be a monumental task to track that for the useful life, meaning 7 to 10 years. We probably couldn't do that. So we're doing another ESSER swap, so those costs are coming back into general fund. And you'll see down below under BB, the salary and benefit adjustments, we're moving additional salaries over into the ESSER 3 grant for support salaries. So when you say the grant-related adjustments, line BE, part of that is moving additional salaries over to fill the hole when we moved the furniture over. So I know that gets confusing. One item, BD, we've got an adjustment there, primarily that downward adjustment, and expected is savings on natural gas. We had a warmer than typical winter, so we've got a $500,000 savings in natural gas. So any questions on Budget Amendment 1 for the general fund?
Hearing none? Move forward to the next budget. Special revenue fund.
Do you want to
Oh, right, thank you, yep. All right, so may I please have a motion to move forward budget amendment to general fund?
So move.
Support.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. On to special revenue fund.
Okay, so special revenue fund, again, this one is made up of several funds, so I'm gonna go. There are the funds that are included in our special revenue. We have food service, GRASP, student activity, which are basically the building agency accounts that are held. Trust funds, we've got a couple trust funds there, and Houseman Field. The memo detail on this one, to drive through, you'll see most of our adjustments are on the food service fund. This fund is continuing to watch where we are on that. There's been several adjustments on funding sources on there, where you'll see an increase on state revenue and a decrease on the federal revenue. Meal counts and reimbursement rates are in play on both of those. We are also looking to adjust expenses down for salaries and benefits. But the one item that you'll see that is concerning to me is our food and merchandise costs continue to increase with inflationary costs. As you'll see, we've got a revenue decrease and an expense decrease, but our ending fund balance in food service is going to be a challenge. I'm gonna go back here, you'll see our use of fund balance is $1.7 million this year, leaving us with a projected fund balance of only $600,000 for next year. So this will be a fund that we continue to watch. Had several discussions with our director, Philip Green, about what adjustments we can be able to do, so.
When Ms. Cribbs and I reviewed this in advance of the meeting, one thing that I suggested as well is that this is really a legislative issue, and that we need to be talking federally to our representatives that the reimbursements are not tracking with inflation, which will negatively impact our scholars ultimately. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to move forward budget amendment to special revenue fund?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Debt retirement fund.
Okay, debt retirement fund. Again, we've just got a few adjustments here. Property taxes, we're adjusting down the budget for that to anticipated what we're gonna get at the end of the year. Investment income remains strong, and you'll see we're bringing on records for our new bond issue that we just did in March, so. And there's the detail of the debt retirement funds.
Okay, any discussion on debt retirement fund? All right, hearing none, may I please have a motion to move forward budget amendment to debt retirement fund?
Motion to approve.
I will support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Move on to our donation.
Okay, this is a donation or grant renewal. This is with W.K. Kellogg Foundation. We've had this grant. This is now I believe the second renewal, so the third time we've had this grant, and it's in partnership with the Grand Rapids Children's Museum. So it's purposely playing towards kindergarten. So highly successful program, and for our little ones entering kindergarten in the fall. So.
Okay, any discussion? May I please have a motion to move forward this donation to the board?
Motion to approve.
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. We'll move on to our reports. First is our April 2024 financial statements.
So at this point, even though we're approaching the end of the year, things are tracking as I would expect them. You'll see a number of items where you'll say adjust an amendment to. So as that passes and you see the May financial statements, we will make those adjustments in the May financial statements. And just a reminder, those will be the last monthly financial statements that you'll see for this year. The June statements you won't actually see until we go through the full audit and bring the full audit to you in October. So there's a lot of activity that still happens in these last couple months. throughout, actually through the end of August, as we're making adjustments and closing out our fiscal year of 2024. So if there's not any questions, we'll just keep moving forward.
All right, no questions?
So I believe that gets us to our bond construction update.
That's right. All right, welcome, Mr. Smart.
Good morning. That was fast. You went through a lot of information right
It was a
there.
lot of information.
So, Ms. Shaki, Ms. Wade, Mr. Ross, good morning. I'll go, as usual, through all the projects that we have going on. We'll start with the Innovation Center on GR Montessori. Since our last report, there is no change. We're continuing to work on the commissioning and the systems balancing on both projects. The manufacturer has, and the contractor have told us that we're looking at an estimated completion at the end of July now. Kent Hills, the chiller is properly working now, and we're continuing to monitor that for any issues that may come up during the cooling season, since it's under warranty. And the boiler replacement project is on schedule to start as soon as the kids are done for the school year. It will not interfere with any summer school. The work is just confined to the boiler room. Sibley, we had the opportunity and privilege to do a presentation to the school body during an assembly this last Wednesday, and we shared the scope of work with the students and kind of share with them a little bit of what they can expect to see when they come back next fall. And we are ready to start work there too, as soon as school is over. The Coit renovation project, we did issue a phase 1 site work out for bids. The bids are due on June 5. And that work is only on the playground side of the site. It's not the playground, but it's the actual asphalt replacement work that we're doing there. The rest will be next summer. It will be a year from now. And the contractor is also ready to start as soon as school is out. While we're at Coit, the playground, we worked with the city. I presented last month that we made some material changes to meet the storm drainage requirements from the city. And everything has been ordered. We're ready to get started. 6B, we did have a community engagement meeting on April 30th, I believe, and we're planning a second community meeting. We are right now working with the architects and CMs to develop the project, and we're redefining some of the priorities to bring the project within budget. And we're still planning on issuing the project out for bids in September. Houseman Field, we did receive a proposal from C2AE for architectural services. That project we are going to move forward with as a design build process. We will not be hiring a construction manager. It's just going to be a general contractor. And we brought to this body the recommendation to hire C2AE to be the architect on that project. Also, we made a recommendation to also hire C2AE for the Riverside Montessori renovation project. We interview 4 companies, actually 3, 4 submitted, and C2AE came on top throughout the process, the review process. The multiple parking lots. We again received some proposals and interviewed 4 firms, and we're making a recommendation. Vriesman and Kornhorn will be the civil engineers to complete the design work for Innovation Central. Lion Street parking lot, GR Montessori, CA Frost, Middle High, Congress, and Kent Hills. And we'll do just a design work. We'll be bidding it in the fall, and the construction will be next fall. This summer, we're only doing Shamrock Hills parking lot, which was designed last year, and Richmore, which was also designed last year. Richmore, we do have summer school, so we're looking into solving the parking and student drop-off scenario, and we have some ideas that we're proposing to the principal and the summer school staff. Shamrock Hills, we do have I think it's the West Little League that they do use those fields. And we are in communication with them to let them know that parking lot will be off limits. We have identified alternate parking spaces for them. They're just going to have to do a little walking. It's like right behind the school. There is a field there that they can access from Lake Michigan. Proposals coming up. We issue requests for proposals for construction management services for Riverside Montessori. We do have a pre-submittal meeting tomorrow on site, and the proposals are due June 6. Of course, once we go through the evaluation process, we'll bring it back to this board for approval. We also have a request for proposals for the new Aberdeen Elementary, and that one is for architects and engineers. And we are having a pre-submittal meeting today, this afternoon, and also their proposals are due June 6. Projects coming up. This also we'll have to do a request for proposals for the following. Kennel Shed renovation, the Ottawa High School to receive the students from Alger, the Alger renovation to receive students from Brookside, Chavez and Dickinson renovation, multiple playgrounds, the Ottawa High School auditorium, which we probably end up combining with the previous Ottawa High School project to make it more efficient, and the Union Pool renovation. And there'll be others added to the list, but those are the ones that we're setting our focus on next. And that concludes my quick overview.
Been hearing a lot about the field at Ottawa, the practice field. Is there any plans to upgrade that field or fix the issues going on with the field? In the past, there was no electricity and a water issue, and then just the size of it wasn't effective for practicing on.
Yes, we're hearing on that too. Last year, we actually had that. It was really dry, and we ended up buying a portable system to water, and it did help. We're hoping to get ahead of that this year and not wait till it's too late. Those fields, and this is the reason why we're also doing bricks. Both Ottawa and Union fields are on the schedule for us to do a total rehaul. So we needed to have bricks ready so that way we can move the activities to bricks while we do that work in the coming years. But in the meantime, our grounds team will continue to work on the improvements that we need to keep it safe and operational.
Any further questions for Mr. Smart? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Arlette, our last item today is an update on the May Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. Ms. Cribbs.
So I will just give a brief update on that. So as the summaries came out afterwards describing it, it's portraying a mixed bag. So general fund for the state is seeing an overall increase, but the school aid fund, the revenue estimates are actually down. That's primarily due to a decrease in the estimates for sales tax revenue. So they're still expected to increase just at a lesser rate. Pupil memberships are also expected to continue to decline across the state. One thing is, MSBO in their summary is the school aid fund experiencing downward revenue is concerning overall for our K-12 budgets. But to remember, and a couple of you are longtime board members, so you may remember in the back of your mind, there's over approximately $1 billion of school aid fund appropriated for fiscal year 24-25 devoted to higher ed, the community colleges, and university appropriations. So some of that, as the state's general fund was experiencing revenue difficulties, some of those costs were moved over to the school aid fund. So now the question is, now that the school aid fund is not doing as well as the general fund, is there a potential for some of that funding to go back to the state's general fund? That's a question to be asked. Also, the state's general fund used to do more support into the school aid fund than they are currently doing as well. So that will be one of them. It will be interesting to see how it plays out in the next few weeks of what that looks like. Overall, all three proposals are now out there with the governor, the House, and the Senate. There's a range on the foundation allowance between $217 to $302. Last week at our KSBO meeting, so the Kent County School Business Officials, thinking that it's likely going to be more in between the 217 and the 241 that were the House and the governor's proposals. So I know the state legislatures and the governor's office are working on, now that they have the revenue consensus information as well, working on their budget proposals. So what I've heard is we'll still hopefully hear something by the end of June. So.
Okay, that concludes this meeting of the Finance Committee. Thank you, everyone, for your time this morning. We're adjourned.